Okay, before I bring in today's guest, I need to set something up. So we talk a lot on this show about the women who have done everything right, built the career, raised the kids, held the family together, showed up for everyone. And then one day, usually in their 40s or 50s, something shifts, right? The nest empties, the role they played for decades changes shape, and suddenly in the silence, they have to meet a version of themselves they've been too busy to know. Today's guest knows that silence intimately. She's one of the most powerful women in modern social justice. She stepped into chairmanship of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation at one of the most volatile, scrutinized moments in the organization's history. She built a communications enterprise from the ground up. She raised 3 sons. She was, by every external measure, a woman who had it fucking handled. And then boys grew up, house went quiet, and she had to figure out who the hell she was without anyone needing her in the same way. She started dating again after more than a decade. She sat with questions she'd been too busy to ask. She chose, and this is the word I can't stop thinking about, she chose wholeness over impressiveness. Her name is Cicley Gay. She's about to tell us what all of that actually looks like. Cicley is a movement leader, cultural strategist, and board chair of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. With more than 2 decades of experience in philanthropy and social impact, her work is rooted in love, legacy, and building systems that support Black life. She's a mother of 3 sons, founder of BLM Sports, a global platform advancing wellness and equity in sports. And in this season, she's embracing midlife as a time of reclamation, speaking honestly about growth, vulnerability, and becoming whole. Let's fucking go. Cicley Gay, you are here on the Feminine Rebellion podcast. And before we get into all of it, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
When someone doesn't know your entire resume stack, when someone doesn't know how accomplished you are, and they ask you who you are, what do you actually say right now at this moment?
Yeah, that's deep. I think for a very long time, my identity was shaped and influenced by the people around me, which is why this time with you is so important because there's been a shift in my life as of late where my identity is really being shaped. And the answer to that question is really being shaped about the truth of who I am. And I am someone who loves deeply, who gives passionately and oftentimes without restraint. I am someone who believes that the best is possible and is always seeking it. And at my heart of hearts, I believe that I am a servant because I recognize that I've been given a lot and I have a lot to give.
Oh, holy shit. Okay, that is a great introduction to you.
I didn't know you were going to ask me that question, but
Yeah, well, I mean, it speaks to exactly the crux of what I want this interview to be, which is like this shift. So, when did you stop
yeah.
leading with, the title and the accomplishments?
Yeah. In 2022, after working for 20 years in nonprofits, and I'm sure I'll, trickle this conversation throughout with,
Yeah.
my nonprofit professional experience, but took on the most rewarding and yet controversial role of my life, the chairwoman of Black Lives Matter. And it was in the midst of a lot of mess, but also a lot of power and accomplishment that had happened, in the movement. There were 27 million people who marched in 2020. And so in 2022, when I was asked to take on this role, I did it. And I did it thinking that I would still continue to be in the background with nonprofits and philanthropy, like I had been for a lot of time. And that wasn't what the moment required. It required
Mm.
someone who stepped into their authenticity, owned this space, and told the truth about it. And it happened simultaneous to me taking my 3rd son off to college. There was literally a news article about my financial background that dropped in the New York Post as I was driving home to become an empty nester after taking care of these three amazing young men for 20 years. And so in that car, on the car ride, there was nobody for me to talk to. There was nobody for me to say, oh no, I've got to protect, right? I got to protect my son before this article comes out. It was me. And it
Mm,
was, is this article true? And are you going to keep letting these people talk about you this way? Or
mm.
are you going to have some agency in this role that you've taken on? And are you going to lead your way? And so that I think is the moment where I was required to make a decision about whether or not I was going to let people tell my story or I was going to figure it out and tell it myself.
Geez. Okay. So that was,
Imagine.
yeah. And that was the moment you took your power back.
I did. I did. It's so fascinating the way that people will I say this now all the time, talk about you because when they talk about themselves, nobody listens.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Right.
I,
They
I mean,
turn
it
it.
is, yeah, it's real. I'm like, you don't even know who I am, and you haven't even given me an opportunity.
Yeah.
However, you continue to either create a storyline that serves your narrative, or have challenges with me and my leadership and how I move things forward. And I just did have a level of power, I think, in raising these three sons. I've been
Mm,
weathered. And I say
yeah.
I've done it without the benefit of a partner. I don't say a single mom because I have a community of sisters who have poured
Mm,
into me and my sons for a very long time. But, I have not been in a relationship since my youngest son was like 2 years old. And so, I had done it and raised these three young men in community for a while. And so I was very strong and I knew I was very strong. And so I think I got tapped into that as it related to, taking ownership of not only this organization, all of the things that have happened with BLM, I say are not my fault, but they are my responsibility as I serve in this
mhm.
role, but also what kind of leader I'm going to be and what my legacy is going to be, when people talk about me in 10 years or 20 years.
Yeah. What was that moment like? You're in the car, you see
Yeah.
this New York Post
Yeah. It was
thing
Google
drop,
alerts,
like,
Maddie, like straight up. It was Google alerts.
got a Google alert on yourself.
Yeah.
That's the
So
worst.
I know. So I had set up, again, my kids, I mean, I say all the time that they're my mirror and my compass, and I poured into them. And they're like three amazing kids. You could take each one of them and talk about their stories independently, and I could fill up this whole podcast. My oldest son was on
Mm,
Broadway by the time he was 10. My middle son is my lacrosse player, and he's the one that kind of introduced me to this world of like Martha's Vineyard and kind of this New
yes.
England lifestyle. And then my youngest is a Division I football player right now who's all over the internet and potentially going to go to the NFL draft next year. And so
Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah. So each one of them have their own stories. And so I poured into them for a really, really long time. And we're givers, right? We give our time, our
Yes.
wisdom, our leadership, our compassion,
Yeah.
our creativity, our family. But a lot of the time we, are taught a very dangerous version of giving. And that giving means giving to the point of exhaustion, that if you're
Mm,
sacrificing without limits and with depletion, then that's where you deserve a medal and a prize. And I
oh,
decided at that point, yeah, I can give to my community, but I'm going to give from a position of wholeness, and I'm going to love the way I've loved my sons, but I'm not going to give until I'm so burnt out that I don't have anything left.
mm. Okay, mic drop. I mean, that's like we could end the pod right there. That's the lesson, right?
Yeah, it's
So
real.
it is so real and it's so cliche,
Yep.
right? It's so cliche, but it's so real. So
Yeah.
you said something that I've been sitting with for the past few days as I've been preparing for this. You say you didn't want to be impressive anymore.
Mm.
You wanted to be whole.
Yeah.
When did
Yeah.
those two things become different goals for you?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, so much of my professional life was about fighting stigmas. So
Mm,
think about it. I'm someone
yeah.
who's, smart enough to do the job, but people were always concerned that because I had kids, I couldn't travel, right?
Mhm.
Or frankly, because I wasn't married, I didn't have support that I needed. And so people were always passing judgment about how I would show up before I got in the room. So I became an overachiever. I mean, I gave birth to my first son when I was 16 years old, right?
Yep.
So I know what it feels like to be underestimated when you come into the room. And so I had, a PhD in trying to impress people.
Yeah.
right? Like that was
Yes.
always the thing. I mean, even before I went in
Yes.
meetings, I used to say this prayer, and it's like, let me blow their mind. Like, let me say something they've never heard before, but
Yes.
never let me show up as my full, authentic, whole, genuine self.
Ah.
Right? And it was in moments though, unexpected moments. I'll give you a good example. I worked for the Women's Sports Foundation for a long time, founded by Billie Jean King. And it was such an amazing role that changed my life. I cut my teeth in philanthropy there. I was around some amazing, amazing, passionate, and brilliant women. But my job was not to do what everyone else at the foundation had done and that they were championing for the right of female athletes. They hired me because I was different. They wanted to reach under-resourced girls in, frankly, Black and Hispanic communities because they were being left behind. And so my job required my authenticity, right? It
Mm.
required me not to show up as some artificial version of myself where I had everything together. It required me to get in the trenches and find out what these girls were dealing with and then
Yeah.
articulate those stories to the people who could write checks and change their lives. And
Mm.
so it became a value add for me to be authentic and not to show
Mm.
up with everything buttoned up. And then in those moments, I realized that's where I was really building relationship with people because the other people across the table for me were experiencing imposter syndrome and vulnerability and everything else too, right?
Right.
Yeah, and so so that's it. I mean, it happened in a lot of ways with a lot of relationships.
Mm.
But I can poignantly think about the first time I had this boss, and this was a story I was going to tell, and I love her. We were texting just yesterday, and we were going into a meeting at Pepsi with top executives. We were making $1 million ask. Billie Jean was in the room. There were other lawyers in the room. I am this Black single mom who's running this nonprofit program for Black and Hispanic girls in Atlanta, and they're like, "We want you to come and tell the stories of the girls." And I'm nervous. I'm like, I don't know the right words. I'm not quite sure if I'm the right person. And she put a little sticky note on my computer and it says, "Nobody knows more about this than you." And
Mm.
I'm like, I literally get goosebumps because it wasn't about degrees. It wasn't about resumes. It was about the hard work and making a difference in the lives of the young women that we were charged to serve. And nobody could do that with me. And certainly nobody could do it if they were being fake, right? Or
Mm-mm.
inauthentic. And that's how I started to step into my power about being real.
And that speaks to something so powerful as this idea that we need each other, that like
Yes.
another woman
Yeah.
reminded you
Yeah. Yeah.
of your worth, of
Yeah.
your brilliance,
Yeah.
of, what I call your wildness, like
Yeah.
your authenticity, like the truth of who Cicely really is was needed in that moment. And another
Yeah.
woman, another sister reminded you of that.
Yeah, shout out Jennifer Eddy. And that's her name, Jennifer. And she I think the other part about it is she was my boss. She was my supervisor, right? So in many circumstances where, competition leads, she
Yeah.
yielded and wasn't worried about me shining that day. She,
This is what happens when women
yeah.
are in power.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good. And then so I saw it in real time how she believed in me. So then I wanted to serve her well, but also, it made me sit back and say, nobody, they don't know anything about this program. I do.
Yeah.
And therefore it's I'm required to show up and share it. And I mean, we walked out of the room with a check that day. So like ultimately,
It worked. It worked.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
worked. So this speaks directly to what you talk about so often, which is about like work being rooted in love, right?
yeah,
So your work, everything from BLM to the amplifiers to BLM
yeah,
sports,
yeah.
you describe as being rooted in love. So what does it actually look like
Mm.
to lead with love in
Yeah,
these spaces that are high pressure, high visibility, and
yeah,
very often rooted in conflict?
yeah. It's not easy. I mean, it's an active decision because there are times where you find yourself getting caught up and responding quickly based on the environment that you're around. And there are people, especially as you can imagine, being the chairwoman of Black Lives Matter, that have been very critical of my leadership style because yes, there's a space for people to flip over the table, right?
Yeah.
But I've learned that's not my gift. And I
Mm-mm.
believe that, all walls are not knocked down with fists. They're just not.
Mm.
And I can try to pretend that I'm going to be on the front lines in a march,
Mhm.
or or I can change hearts and minds through an expectation, through an expectation and example of leadership that is consistent and sometimes collaborative, right? Where I'm not telling
Mm,
you what to do, I'm not saying go, I'm saying let's go. That is forgiving, that is
mm,
inclusive. I
mm,
learned that love by being a mother. And so
mm.
when people have called me weak, I've had to step back and say, I'm not weak, I am meek. And because I love so loudly, that is strength under restraint.
Mm,
I'm not saying that
mm.
I don't get upset, right? But I take a beat, right? And I think, am I making this decision from a point of retaliation or anger, or aggravation, or
Mm.
is this really coming from a place of love? And you've heard Oprah's hurt people hurt people. A lot of the times, the
Yeah,
people who are upset with you or angry with you, they're not doing it because it's even about you. it's it's
yeah,
it's
and
something
it's
else that
never about you.
no.
Never about you.
So I've got to own my agency. And oftentimes I visualize myself being this steady ship in a rocky, rocky ocean. And I just remind myself that me getting caught up in the waves is not going to change anything, not for the long
No,
term.
no. It reminds me of something that I go back to a lot in my own life. It's like, I don't want to have power over, I want to have
Yeah.
power with. Like, and it
Yeah.
sounds like you might be the ship at the front of the fleet,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you're having an entire, fleet of ships who are traveling
That's
with you.
right. That's right. And I do think that it takes, I'm stepping into this role of leadership, and I think visionary leaders are required to be just that. They're required to step out of the moment and think long
Mhm.
term, right? About the repercussions of their actions, but also the world that they're trying to create. I've always worked for nonprofit organizations. So my work, my money, my livelihood has always been rooted in serving,
Yeah,
which sometimes has meant that I haven't made a lot of money. But
yeah,
but I'm working in philanthropy now, and I say I will never take more money than I give away. It's just not how I'm wired.
yeah,
And my currency in many ways is also very different, right? When I see a
mm,
mother with three sons maybe go to college or get a trade, or find their voice to leave a situation that is not successful, for me that's like a check, because I know I've
yeah,
changed a life for generations.
yeah.
So that's it. I think this notion of shared leadership and power rooted in love, is what
Mm,
keeps me moving forward, because my currency is different. I think long term about the vision, and then ultimately, if we're talking about those ships, where it is we're trying to go, not just what we're dealing with when we're on the ride.
yeah. And what does it require of you personally to
Yeah.
sustain it?
Yeah. I'm going to be really candid here, because you told me I better, and there's
Yeah,
really nowhere else to be. But I have been dealing with things with my sons that, everything's not perfect, right? And sometimes they're dealing with their own struggles, with their own mental health, or their own personal challenges. And there are a lot of people who have said to me, drop everything and save your family member, save your son, save your, mother, right?
yeah.
And there are moments where I've wanted to do that, but I've had to pause and say, if I run to them, I'm going to set myself on fire to keep them warm, and this whole empire's about to collapse. And so
Mm,
judge me if you must, because I haven't dropped everything to save somebody else.
mm,
But if I don't put my own oxygen mask on first, right,
mm,
then everybody's going down. And so I think that's the short answer. And it's difficult when there are people around you who you love, particularly people you've brought into this world, who
yeah,
need you, right? They need you. But I spent 20 years putting other people first. And I
mm,
know now that I've got to have boundaries, and I've got to be very honest about when it's time for
mm,
me to step back. I got to know my limits. I got to
mm,
say, hey, like, I've done what I can do today, and I need a moment to curl up in the bed and regroup, and
mm,
I can be back tomorrow. But that, I think that's really it. Like, I've dealt with some things recently with one of my sons in particular as it relates to mental health, and I just have to keep coming back to my boundaries and say, I love him. I'm going to love him through it. But I
mm,
cannot set myself on fire to keep him warm. And I'm going to find the spaces where I can be valuable without losing myself and then not
Mm.
becoming a value to anybody at all.
And okay, so beautiful. And trusting
Yeah.
that after raising them for 20 plus years, that they have the tools and the
Yes.
resilience
Yes.
to take care of this themselves as well, and to
Yeah.
reclaim their own power.
Natty,
I
I mean, that, yes, that's so important. I mean, they talk about all the time, like when you're a parent, you go from kind of like being a boss to being a consultant, right? And
Mhm.
yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast on that, what that's like, and
Yes.
becoming an empty nester and like people not
Yes.
calling you because they need you, but because they want you, right?
Yes.
But if you believe that you're a good sister or daughter or in my case mother, then what does that really mean? Does that really mean that I've got to carry you for the rest of your life, or have I given you the tools? Have I given you
Yeah.
the tools to be
Yeah.
able to get through some of these things yourself? And I've got to trust that I have.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. So let's go to the moment where you were empty
Yeah.
nested,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What did those first few weeks feel like?
I was stir crazy. I would turn on every TV in the house because it was so weird to not have like three sweaty boys coming in and out
Mhm.
of the house. I was trying to just find things to do because I had an expectation that there'd always be somebody who needed me, and frankly, there
Mm.
wasn't. I started dating again, which has been really amazing. It's been
I
really
can't wait to
amazing.
get into that. I can't
Yeah,
wait to get into
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's been a little scary, but it's also caused me to be real about some of my own issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and also, I had a very dynamic empty nester experience because, like I said, I was riding home, the Google alerts come up, I'm in the New York Post. People were talking about the fact that I filed bankruptcy a decade ago for $120,000. And I'm like, this actually isn't a crime, right? Like let's really,
Right.
and then I learned, like, okay, you think you're going to back me into a corner, I'm going to come out swinging. And for all of the people who do know me, they know that anytime I feel vulnerable, I turn that vulnerability into a position of strength where I serve other people because I gained strength through service. And so
Mm.
even in that story that came out, I mean, the next few days, I started really unpacking what happened a decade ago that caused me to be in that financial situation. It was my student
Mm.
loans. 6 months later, Black Lives
Student
Matter had a
fucking loans.
Yes, Black Lives Matter had a student loan program that was helping people pay off their student loans. And then they had a student solidarity program. And I'm not taking full credit for this. It was a team of people who pulled it together. But the
Mhm.
impetus was absolutely me being honest and saying, they're talking about me in the news because I filed bankruptcy. I had $60,000 in student loans and I didn't know where else to turn. And guess what? I'm not the only one. So
Mm.
so you're not going to,
Mm.
push me into this corner of shame. I'm going to tell you what I've learned, and now I'm in this position of power with resources. I'm going to help other people so that they're not in that same space. And so that's what it looked like for me. Yeah, I'm in the house and it feels weird to be alone. My youngest, he went off to school in Nashville, and I did visit him like the first couple of weekends. And I said, "Don't you miss me?" And he's like, "No, you're always here. Like, go." I was like, but your laundry. He's like, no, like my friends' moms are not your friend. Like, go home. And so to your point, like I had done a good job at ensuring that he had wings, and he was flying, and he was sweet and candid enough to tell me, go home and start to build your own life. And so I continued to
Mm.
do that. I started working out. I got a Peloton. I got a trainer. I started thinking about what I was eating because I wasn't cooking for three people. It was really just about me.
Mhm.
And then I tapped into my relationships with my friends as well. I mean, I can't say enough about my circle of sisters. Women who, they know when I go quiet. They sense when I'm inconsistent. They know when it's time. I mean, I just had two of them who rented a little Airbnb, and we just posted up for like 3 days, where the
Mm.
world was just very, the world was loud, and this little cabin was not. And so those were the kinds of things that I started really doing to come back to myself.
Isn't that the best? These women
Yeah.
in our lives, like
My God.
especially like my girlfriends will say, there'll be like a text chain saying Natty's under her rock again, and it's like,
Mm, they
I do.
know.
I crawl under my rock and I go silent, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
and then they just show up. They're like, "Come on, girl, let's
Yeah.
go for a walk," and I'm like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah. 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 I feel so fortunate to have Yeah, to have people who really love me and know me,
Yeah.
outside of Black Lives Matter and outside of, awards and contributions and to
Yeah.
society and everything else. They're just like, what does Cicely need right now? And let's come together and provide that. And I do the same, the same to
Yeah.
them.
We do it for each other. So you've said in the past you've had to meet yourself in silence in ways you never had
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
What did you find there that surprised you?
Ooh, that's deep. Yeah. It is an interesting space to be in when you do have to come to, this empty house, coupled with the reality, Natty, that there were people, for instance, who protested outside of my house. When I joined this board, there were people who, told me I should be behaving a certain way or leading a certain way or responding a certain way. And so I had to sit back and say, are you responding this way because people are telling you to, or is this because, of who you are? And it was not always easy. I mean, I realized that I did a lot of things that were self sabotaging,
Yeah,
sometimes.
like what?
Yeah, but we talked about the dating thing. I mean, I'm a runner, I'm a track star, like that. Like I was somebody who, somebody would come and treat me really well, and I'm like, oh no, this is not right. Like, you don't have any issues or any problems, and you really want to like pay for my food and take me somewhere, and there's no drama. I don't really feel comfortable with this. You're gonna find something wrong with me, or I'm not ready to be in this relationship. So I did that kind of thing as it related to interpersonal relationships, particularly with dating and men. I also had moments professionally where I started elevating really quickly and then got afraid. So this doxing that happened of me, right? This she filed bankruptcy and she has 3 kids and she's a single mom. It freed me. I I was talking to I mentioned one of my other friends and they told me they wanted to run for office and I felt like everybody in the world was talking about me first of all. And they're like, first of all, not everybody reads the New York Post, so half the people that you are worried about don't even know what you're talking about. So stop telling everybody that you're in the New York Post. They don't know and they don't care. But I remember this friend saying, I wanted to run for office and I can't because, I foreclosed on my house. And not me, my friend. And they said, what else they got on you? They got nothing. So now you have the right to do, to be, to go. There's nothing that they have that is going to be this, shoe drop moment that's going to stop you from moving forward. And I thought, well, you're right about that, And so it was empowering. It certainly didn't happen the way that I wanted to, with people kind of digging into my background and trying to tell stories about who I was. And even Black Lives Matter. I mean, a lot of people don't understand the complexities of Black Lives Matter, and they think that I was around. For instance, there was a house that was purchased in California, and money that people have said was moved. Or whatever. I wasn't even here then. I was working
Yeah.
for other nonprofits, but they blame me for that. But nevertheless, it allows me the opportunity to tell the truth, and it allows me to be free from the stigma of some of the things that for a very long time held me back. I'd elevate professionally, then I'd be afraid. I'm like, no, I don't think I need that raise because it's going to be put me in the spotlight. It's going to make me a national figure. People are going to start asking questions. And now it's like, well, okay, what else you got?
Yeah, it just sounds like ownership. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like this is
Yeah.
who I am, and these are the things that I've experienced, and
Yeah.
this is the truth of who I am and what my life's been like, and keep fucking asking questions, keep
Yeah.
digging. I'll keep answering them. Like,
Yes. Yes.
how much do you want to know about me?
That's it. That's it. I mean, that's literally what happens. I mean, they scared me. It scared me. It broke me for a minute. And then when you get through it on the other side, you're like, it's not that bad. And then you realize you can keep going. And then, I think the other really beautiful thing is the people who are brave enough to come to you and say, hey, that helped me. I went through that too. Right. And then you're like, really? All right, well, we're in this together, and you're not here to judge me, but you're here to find, a common thread because we're so much more similar, than the world would tell us we are. And ultimately, I caused no harm in telling the story, but I certainly would have if I would have kept it a secret.
Yeah, and I mean, you didn't just not cause harm, you used it as fuel
Yeah,
to
yeah,
create systemic change for others.
that's right. That's right.
So
Yeah,
it's like there's such power in that.
Yeah, yeah, it feels good when you're on the other side. When you're in it, it's hard. It's nerve-wracking. You know, my blood pressure gets high and but you get through it and then you're like, okay. I see why people are fighting so hard to keep me quiet because there's power in what I say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Boom. So let's zoom back to your boys for a minute. Like your mom of three boys, 21,
Yeah.
26,
6 and 31. I'm a
and
grandma.
31.
I'm a grandma.
Oh my God. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. That's huge. So how has motherhood shaped the way you think about legacy and the systems that you're building in the world?
Yeah. You know, I always say that motherhood taught me how to love, right? Motherhood taught me how to love selflessly. I got pregnant when I was 16 years old and had a baby in high school. And so, you know, I had to grow up real fast and I had to learn that it wasn't always about me. And so I say often that my oldest son, Markel, and we kind of grew up together. Because there were some days that I had to put my own, you know, priorities in the back seat because I had this obligation to care for, you know, a child. But I also think that when you do it right and you get to the point where your children are adults and they start having real conversations with you, it is a beautiful thing because who knows you better? It was that same, you know, 16-year-old boy who came to me when I was about to join the board of BLM. I remember him sitting in the corner in the chair in my room and he was like, how can you say no to this? You've been preparing for this your entire life. Like you have only, right? Like you've only worked for community. You've raised three Black sons in these United States of America without the benefit of a partner. You literally are the poster child for someone who's had these conversations about the police and keeping your hand at 10 and 2 and you know and you've worked in philanthropy and with nonprofits for 25 years. And so, you know, he said, you know, mom, like this is obviously your next step. Um and we're going to be okay, right? The three of us are going to be okay. I feel very fortunate that this came along after they were out of high school because it's not like they had to go to high school and hear anybody, you know, talk about the organization or the movement or even me in the same way. Two of them chose to go to HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. So that was even more dope because they like wrote papers about the movement and me and everything.
And
You
their
know,
mom, and their
and I'm
mom.
able to contribute, right? Right. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, raising them has made certainly me very resilient. I'm always trying to make a way out of no way. You know, I am like the queen of, you know, if the door's closed, then where's the window? You know, I like there. It's kind of a joke when people tell me, yeah. I was like, no, okay, no for you.
Exactly. Watch
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
God, kids are so brilliant. It's so
yeah.
we underestimate them. I mean, your
Mhm.
kid giving you that pep talk. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's and also like the way that they believe in me. I mean, it's a really cute story also, you know, guys in their hair, well, women in their hair too, but a lot of times guys in their hair, especially when they're teenagers, it's kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And my youngest son, he's an athlete, he's a football player, and I remember him, I think junior year of high school, coming in my room and saying like, you know, haircuts cost a lot of money, and I just need you to start cutting my hair. And I'm like, have you lost your mind? I do not know how to cut hair and you are, you know, a 16, 17-year-old guy, and don't you want to be cool, not look like your mama cut your hair? And he says to me, just go on YouTube and figure it out. You can do it. You can do anything. And he walks out of my room. And I'm like, I
You're
know.
right.
I know.
You're right,
I know.
honey.
And I'm like,
Right.
okay, you
Oh my God. I love him.
too.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like they've absorbed a lot from you, but what do you hope they have absorbed from
Hmm.
watching you in this particular season of your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I, I want to be who I needed as a child. Right. And so I hope that they have understood that servant leadership is not optional and that we live in a world that requires of us to be in connection and of service to others.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And through that, not necessarily you know, self-sacrificially, but there is so much to gain. collectively, the rising tide, right, lifts all
Yeah.
ships, right? Like I'm going to grow because you grow. I mentioned I'm dating now, and I have an amazing partner, and he does a lot of work with nonprofits as well. And even that is a little scary to say out loud, because you're like, oh God, I'm telling people that I'm in a relationship. But he's a part of my life now, and so I remember him talking about success and, how financially he's in a different place. And he said, but how am I going to be rich if my brother is poor? And I think that just level of compassion and community care and expectation for the world around you is something that I hope that my sons carry with them every single day.
Service leadership,
Yeah.
the rising tide. It's so important. Yeah, I hope that my kids take that as well.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it takes a village, that we have to connect
Yeah.
with each other. Like, one of the things I've always taught my kids is, like, when you're walking down the street, you say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to every single person that passes.
Yes.
Like, you make eye contact. Like, you're walking around the neighborhood, you say good morning to the neighbors, you ask,
Yeah.
or you make connection, like human to human. We're all connected. That to me is a small act of service. Like,
Isn't it though?
I see you.
And I've had a true story. Like I have been someone I've lived in my car. I know what it feels like to, look in couch cushions for change to get my kids to school. And I remember once I went to this community service agency, and I was going there, I think for like rental assistance or something, right? It's one of those like places where you go and you say like, I lost my job or I need some money and I need something to help me for the next month. And the intake woman, she says to me, like, do you need, toiletries? I've never told the story before. And I'm embarrassed enough as it is that I can't pay my rent, but the reality is I did. And I said, no, no, I'm here to talk to the counselor and I just need rent. And she just looked at me and she put her hand on my hand and she said, we have toiletries. Do you need toiletries? Just that moment of seeing me, I did. I needed toothpaste. I needed toilet paper. I needed all the things. I literally broke down. And I remember going back to her. I actually donated to this nonprofit later. But I remember going back to her just like a couple of days later and saying, I know you see hundreds of people all the time, but just the fact that you paused and asked me that question one more time was what I needed that day, because you had no idea what I was going through, but I just needed somebody to see me and have a level of compassion that humanized me and showed me that I didn't have to be embarrassed that I needed help, and there was somebody there who cared enough to provide it.
Thank God for those people, right?
Right? I want to be that. I want to be
Yes.
that.
We want
Yeah.
our kids to be that too.
Yeah.
We want our
Yeah.
kids to be that too. So I want to circle back to dating, because I think this is going to be really fun. So you started dating again
I
after a
did.
decade, and I just want to know, what was that like? What was that
Scary.
like?
Scary. And Natty, like you. I mean, people can look you up nowadays, right? I'm on Instagram. So I'm like, are you, what do you know about me? Right? Like are you somebody who's trying to get involved in, philanthropy and nonprofits or Black Lives Matter? Are you somebody who's, might be
You
taking my
want something
picture?
from me?
Yes. So that is the additional element that I've got to, face, that so many of us also do, whether we're in a prominent position, or whether we're, leading in our job, or we have some elevated position in society. So I had to deal with that too. But I worried about what my sons would think. I mean, I've got 3 6'2" sons, so I'm like, good luck anybody coming in here and thinking that they're gonna just waltz
Right.
their way in, right? And will they be scared by that? I had to ask myself a lot of questions about like why is it that I waited so long? And I'd always said, oh, it's to protect my sons, and it's because I just don't want anybody to come into their lives and change it. And that's true to an extent. But the reality is, I had a lot of work to do around just
Who else were
trust.
you protecting?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't want to let my guard down, right? I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to fall for somebody and they possibly leave. I didn't want to do some of the work that would make me a good partner. I had this like internal list of the kind of man that I wanted. And then I looked at the list and I'm like, girl, you're not even half of these things. You're not fit. You don't go to church. Like all the things I said I wanted. I'm like, I'm not even doing that in my own life. And so how dare I have that expectation for my partner? And so I think that those things came to the surface really, really quickly, because when you're starting to get to know people, you have to make a decision about how honest you're going to be with them. And
Yeah.
that requires you to be honest with yourself too.
So what were some of the things you had to be honest with yourself about? You said about, working out, going to church, but like, were
Yeah.
there things that you
Yeah.
wanted from a partner that you weren't recognizing in yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think that I was worthy of love. And so I always tried to earn it.
Mm,
And so I had to look at why it was that I didn't think somebody might just really be interested in me for me. And why I always felt like I had to come to the table with something, right? Like, and at one turn, I'm like, oh, do they want something from me, right? Do they want a connection, or do they want to know about grants or whatever it is I'm doing? But at the same time, I'm the one who's offering up the connection, and I'm the one who's writing the grants, and because I'm trying to prove to them, right, that I'm worthy. And so I think that happened really quickly, that I had to realize that, I was enough. I'm a beautiful, loving, compassionate human being. And I don't always have to come with stuff to prove that I deserve to be with, whomever it is I'm with. And I'm still working through that now. Like I met a beautiful man, and I am just recently getting to the point where I feel secure enough that everything doesn't have to be perfect, right? And we've decided to be together. And so when we have challenges, it's us against the problem. It's
mm.
not me against him, right? And nobody's running away, and that's new for me.
Yeah, and I can imagine, like, as a woman in such like a high profile leadership position, and someone who's like single-handedly raised, well, with the help of a sisterhood, but like
Yeah.
raised three boys like on your own for many, many years, that there's an armor
Yes.
that comes with that, right?
Yes.
Like, fuck that. Like, I'm tough. I can do this. I've done this
Yes.
on my own.
The cape. I wear the cape. You might not see it, but I'm always wearing the cape.
Yeah, I'm always wearing the cape. So, like, I can feel even in myself as like a similar type of woman who's like, I'm fucking tough.
Yeah.
I don't actually need you,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's a moment where vulnerability is required.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or like to kind of show up and talk about like what we actually want.
Yeah, yeah. And what feels really good, like it feels really
Yeah.
good to curl up in a ball and just be, right? Like it feels really good. And again, like each of my sons have different kind of ways in which that they let me know that they accept this phase of my life. One a little bit slower than the other, but they all love that I'm finding a different kind of love. And they have actually been a huge part of the reason that I'm able to be in relationship with a man, because as interesting as this sounds, like I see in many ways my sons through him. So I never want to cause harm, right? So even if he were to do something that maybe might not be what I want him to do, I can isolate the problem and not say this is who you are, black man, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I have three black sons, and I
Yeah.
don't want any woman to treat them or see my sons that way. So my sons have given me a level of compassion for my partner so that I can
Yeah.
isolate the behavior from the man and then continue to love through it.
Mm, lovely. Have
Yeah.
there been moments where you wanted to kind of close back up and run away?
Oh, absolutely. I specifically remember this text I sent, and I was like, this isn't working for me. I need a break. I mean, we had like a great weekend, and I think you're a beautiful person, but I just think I need some more time. And he was like, what are you doing?
Oh, good
Like,
for
no,
you. What
yeah,
was
you're like, you're not.
happening for you? Why do you think you wanted to go?
It actually happened. It was a weekend that my son plays football, and he came to a game. And he met my other son, my grandkids. I mean, it was a football game. So I think I was afraid and we took pictures together, right? So I'm like, this is becoming very formal, right? And I really do think that it was like, uh-oh, it's going to be harder for me to get out of this if something goes wrong. And so I'd rather get out of it now than have the collateral damage of now my family, my kids, my grandkids the public, right? We're together at a football game, who now starts to see you in photos. And so that part, I think really it scared me. I'm like, I'm gonna end this before somebody else does. And he called me out and he was like, what are you talking about? I'll see you tomorrow.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
How long ago was that?
The fall of last year. So it was like October. Yeah, football season.
Okay. So you're
Yeah.
beyond it.
hmm
So, well, congratulations.
Thanks. It's fun. We're having a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you say love is your superpower, but you had to learn to turn it inward. What does this self-directed love feel like
Yeah.
as your like lived experience?
Yeah.
It's
I have
something you
a Yeah, I have a mentor. Her name is Susan Taylor. She was the editor-in-chief of Essence magazine for 30 years. She's a
Mm,
beautiful woman. She's actually written books called like In the Spirit and all about love. And so she
okay.
models love as a practice, and I've been able to, sit at her feet and learn. And one of the things she says to me all the time is, Cicely, give yourself to yourself before you give yourself away.
Give yourself to yourself before
Before you
you
give
give yourself.
yourself.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And it's active, right? It's every single day where you've got to kind of check yourself and
Mm,
ask yourself, am I running on fumes today, or do I have the energy to do this? And it's very similar to a quote by Audre Lorde that I actually have in my office, and it's that self-care is not selfish. It's self-preservation. And
mm,
that's an act of political warfare. So caring for yourself is indeed a radical act. That's an act of survival. That's how you have to stay strong, right? Especially those of us. I mean, you're here too who are fighting against oppression and society and all the things that are happening. And so, I think that's really it. Like, check myself. I journal. I'm very, very grateful. I articulate my gratitude
mm,
because it's really
mm.
easy. It's really easy to think about all the things that are going wrong if you haven't enumerated the things that are going right.
So much that is
You know what
going
I
on,
mean?
and it's so easy to get caught in that.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody called it a the other day. Every day we wake up, they called it a sunrise ticket. And they're like, "You got a sunrise ticket today. What are you gonna do with your sunrise ticket?"
My God, I love that.
And you don't get but so many in life. Think about going to an amusement park and you've got a number of tickets, and think of it like that. Like every day you get a sunrise ticket, and that sunrise ticket is up to you to determine how you use it, how you spend it, how you value it, what you do with it, if you share it, right? And when you think about life that way, how can you not value the things that bring you joy and that bring you hope, and that I want my day to be filled with the good things. And so that's how I try to spend my sunrise ticket, because I know that they're going to come back to me too.
Mm. Do you know the work of Adrienne Marie Brown?
No. Oh, of course. Yes.
Oh my God, this is
Yes.
reminding me a little bit of some of the things
I
she
found her on social media first. I mean, her algorithm like told me like this is who I need to be following.
love her.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like, yeah, I've manipulated my algorithm to weed out the mess, and so
Love
I
her.
get these kinds of good, which also is a recommendation I have for folks.
Yes,
Like,
that is a
yeah,
self-care practice for
it's good to
sure.
be conscious, right? It's good to be aware, but you got to feed your spirit and feed your soul. And she's got some good nuggets of wisdom and self practice
She really
and
does.
care and self love and self care that are really valuable and legit and real.
Yeah, she's so good. So you stepped into one of the most publicly scrutinized roles in America,
Yeah.
right? At exactly the same time that you were in the middle of your own transformation. What was it like to hold both of those realities simultaneously?
Yeah. I think at the very beginning, it in some ways allowed me to delay this journey of self awakening, because I was really good, like so many of us, particularly femmes and women, at helping other folks, right? So it was like, okay, I can't think about that right now. I got too many things to do. I got too many people to help. I got too many people to serve. So I mean, I had some real work to do on the BLM front. Like I had some real, like, get my hands dirty and do things like file taxes. I mean, the organization received $90 million and no one had ever filed taxes for 2 years when I came on board. So hadn't, right? So hadn't reported to the IRS. there was no infrastructure when this new board came together. We had, things that are not sexy, like policies and procedures and, those kinds of things that we had to create. And so I actually had some real work to do. And I think, the giving part, the service part allowed me to kind of continue this process of helping other people without facing the reality of the work that I needed to do for myself. But society wouldn't let that happen. I became the face very quickly. I mean, if you think about nonprofits, Natty, like big ones, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, who's their board chair? They're not on the cover of the New York Post unless they do something crazy, right? But with Black Lives Matter, they were looking for a martyr. And
Totally.
right. So I never expected to be someone who became public facing. And so I never thought that I was going to have to face the identity and challenges and reality and truth of who I was. So by focusing on the organization and the work of the organization first, it catapulted me into the forefront. And then I had a decision to make. Was I going to let people keep telling my story, or was I going to own it and tell it myself? And the beautiful thing is, by doing that, it actually helped the work of the foundation. I was able to serve more people and serve them well. So the two things, people say all the time, work-life balance, and that's not really a thing. I mean, it's more, it's just, there's no such thing. Like
There is no such thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like
it's
no.
integrated. Like we're one fucking human.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
is there a line in me? Like, this is the feminine rebellion and this is like the rest of me? No, it's all here.
Yeah, I couldn't be as bisected as I tried to be. I couldn't do that anymore. I had to bring my full self to the table. I had to bring my mess to the table. I had to tell the truth about that. But also I had to bring my hope and my joy and my love and my peace and my life lessons, because I, was in a board role that requires me to serve other people. Like, it's not an option, so they feed and fuel each other.
Yeah, it sounds like the visibility of being the chairwoman of BLM catapulted an inner journey, awakening, reclaiming for you.
It did. It's a really interesting thing when somebody tells you you're something you're not, and then you're forced to defend yourself, because if you don't believe it, then nobody will, right? So, I mean, it literally, and I remember, with my sons, again, like teaching them life lessons. And, I remember one of my sons being bullied at one point, and them saying something just really absurd about him. And I said, that's like somebody saying you're not athletic. Now, I have my two youngest sons are Division I athletes, right? So they have always been very athletic. And they were like, nobody would ever say that. I said, so if it's ridiculous, then why are you giving it credence, right? And so you can choose to believe it and defend it, or you can let the truth defend itself, and you can focus on that truth. And so let the person who's not telling the truth be on an island screaming, and let the work and the love and the passion and the other authentic relationships you have speak for the truth of who you are. And so that's what I started doing. I doubled down. Like I said, every time somebody throws a brick at me, I'm using it to build a bigger podium to tell the truth on. And so yeah, so they say, let your haters be your motivators. I mean, that's real. They really did. They really did. Because every time somebody said something that wasn't true, I was like, okay, and now I have to tell you the story of what really happened.
So it's like, thank you, New York Post.
Yes, they freed me. They freed me.
You're like, thank you. So you're building real massive infrastructure here, like with BLM, platforms centered on wellness, access, dignity. What does it mean to turn values into actual systems that people can feel?
Yeah. I'm very fortunate, because a lot of the time when people start working in nonprofits or build a nonprofit, they do it solely because it feels good, right? Like you see a cause, it broke your heart, you want to save, whatever, the whales or whatever it is that's close to you. I started working in nonprofits as a business when I was 18 years old. So certainly I believe that service was important and I had a lot to give, but that was coupled with lessons on infrastructure really early. My first job ever was AmeriCorps. It's under the Corporation for National Community Service, and it's basically where like young people 18 to 24 devote a year of their life to service, like the domestic Peace Corps. And you're in like under-resourced communities. I was placed in a community.
That's a 2-year-old.
So let me tell you.
I'm like, wait a second.
You get free childcare. You get free childcare, Natty. So the reason I did it, remember I told you like no is the short answer for most people, but not for me. I started looking for opportunities where there was some value add within the opportunity. So I got not only free childcare by doing it, I also got a stipend to finish my degree at the end of the term. So for me, I was literally in this class. I mean, I've told this story before because I was receiving public assistance. I already had a high school, I already had like a year of college, and they didn't know what to do with me. Remember, I had my son when I was 16 years old, so I just didn't fit in, any of the categories. And they put me in a GED class, and I already had a high school diploma. So every day I would go to this class and I'd meet with these women of all ages, and we'd be learning these lessons. The teacher in that class, she started giving me books outside of the curriculum because she was like, why are you here? I'm like, well, they just didn't have any place to put me. So she started giving me books by feminists like Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde and Toni Morrison.
Oh
And
my
then
God,
she
what
would
is this woman's name?
I know her. It's like Althea, and I need to find her. This was my son now is 31, so it was 29 years ago, and she worked for the Department of Community Service. And yeah, I see her face. She had these dreadlocks and dark brown skin, chocolate skin. I remember her every day saying to me, like, what did you learn? And then I started writing from the books that I was reading. Then she started letting me teach the class. So I would create these fun, I kid you not, I would create these fun games.
Althea?
Yeah, I know. I gotta find her. So I would create these games. So I remember doing like Jeopardy because I used to like Jeopardy. And
Yeah.
with their lessons, I would go up and we'd play games. And so I would help them get to the point where they would, learn the lessons that she was teaching while I was doing my little homework. And one day at this community center or school or wherever we were, I think it was maybe a junior college, there was a flyer on the wall about AmeriCorps. And it said, you can get childcare, you can do service, you can get money for college. And I remember, like, what is this thing? And I did it. And they placed me in a school that was just a stone's throw away from the federal penitentiary in Atlanta. And it was a very impoverished area. And I was responsible, at that point I was 18, for mentoring girls. And I created an after school program for the girls. So every day I would go and we'd like do little physical activity together. I was a cheerleader in high school. So we would like cheer together and I would literally mentor the girls. So AmeriCorps did that term. It's called State and National Direct. Then I did another term called AmeriCorps Vista. That when you're doing direct service, AmeriCorps Vista, you're doing indirect service. So I was placed at a United Way of the Mid-South, and you basically are a staff member at a nonprofit. And I learned about nonprofit infrastructure. So this is a long-winded way to answer your question, but often those of us who serve don't learn the infrastructure part. And I learned it in year 2. And I learned about budgets, and I learned about, theories of change, and I learned about strategic plans, and I learned that, there are inputs and outputs, and there are ways to demonstrate measures. And I say all the time when I'm building effective programs, you nail it and then you scale it. People always want to take over the world. They always, especially when they're ambitious and they're giving and they're kind, and they want to do everything. They want to feed all the children, right? But let's figure out a measurable program that's fundable, get it right, nail it, and then we scale it so we can reach more people for the long term. And so that's the answer to your question. I learned about infrastructure first. And that was able, that's what was able rather to ensure that my heart was encapsulated. And as I moved through BLM, we were trying to get it right. It wasn't just about what felt good. It was about measurements and impact and accountability, and long-term investment, because I've just been taught to lead through nonprofits that way.
You nailed it, scaled it, and infused it with love.
Yeah, that's me. I mean, yeah, if I were to go to ChatGPT, it's so cool when you ask them about yourself and then they tell you stuff, and it's probably what they would say. Something
Yeah.
about,
She infused it with love.
yeah,
So good. So good. So I already know the answer to this. I can feel it in my body, but I want to ask you about the ripple effect of your work in the world. Not just the programs, the platforms, but like the deeper thing. What are you shifting in the world?
Lord.
And
Yeah. I mean, before BLM, I mentioned that I worked for the Women's Sports Foundation for almost a decade. I also worked for another women's organization. Most of my work, interestingly enough, was with women, although I was raising these three sons. And I do believe that women hold up the world, right? And so, when women get it right, our communities thrive. And so I will always, whether I'm working for, a global organization or serving in my own community, make certain that I am investing in the rights and the lives of women. My youngest son came to me once when he was little and he had heard the term feminism. And he was like, well, what is feminism? And I was like, well, it's that we are just and fair and women are treated. He was like, well, that's just what's right. And I was like, okay, I'm doing a good job. And so that's what I believe that my legacy is as it relates to this work and what I'm leaving in the world. It's that as someone who always works in nonprofits, and people are surprised when I say this, my job is to work myself out of a job because I want to solve the problem. And so that's what I lead with. I don't always want to be doing this. I don't always want to be someone who is doing direct service because I don't want there to be that need to always exist. Yeah.
It's such a pleasure to be in this space with you.
I'm so honored to be here with you.
Yeah,
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
I'm a fan of yours. Like, I don't want this to end. And I feel like we've so much more to dive into.
I know.
So many gems in this, however long we've been talking. How long have we been talking? I don't even know.
I don't know. We're just going.
The timer, but I feel like I could talk to you forever. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience today?
Yeah. I think what I know for sure is that real love and real giving does not begin with sacrifice, Natty. It begins with wholeness. I had to learn that lesson the hard way, right? And so for all of us, put our oxygen masks on first, give ourselves to ourselves before we give ourselves away. And if there's anything that I've learned, it's that I will continue to lead with love. It's not what makes me weak, it's what makes me strong.
And for all of us, Cicley Gay, you are a big, gushy, beaming stream of love.
Thank you.
It's such a gift to have you here on the podcast. Feminine Rebels who are listening, we are going to put all of Cicley's, all of her stuff in the show notes. So follow her journey. DM her, ask her questions.
I respond. People are like, "How do you never respond?" I really do. So I love that.
Get into her world. What a fucking pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
The honor's mine. Thank you for who you are and all you do.
Thank you so much. Love you. As I say, I always love you madly, and let's fucking go.
Let's go.
Let's go.